This conference will now be recorded.
So I don't know if you heard that, but I am going to be recording this webinar this morning. So hopefully that's fine with everyone. Well, why don't we get started? As I said, good morning, everyone. This is Terry Goldberg. I'm with the Northeast Waste Management Officials Association, or NEWMOA, and we're here for a webinar this morning with Emerge Knowledge to learn more about the Municipal Measurement Program. And our presenters are going to talk about the program for a while, show you its functionality and its capabilities, and then I hope we'll have some time for questions and discussion at the end of their presentation. I think many of you are familiar with Emerge Knowledge. They're the developers of the Retrack Connect program and have been involved in developing these systems to support solid waste and recycling programs around North America. It's great to have them, their willingness to join us this morning and make this presentation. For those of you who want to, while they're presenting, share questions or comments, please use the little chat box in the control panel on your screen. It should be toward the bottom of your control panel. So enter a message if you're having any technical difficulties. If I'm able to help you with that, I will. You can send a message to the group, or you can just send a message to me. So just avail yourself of that feature while Rick is talking, and I'll make sure to monitor that and share your questions toward the end of the presentation. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Rick. You all should be able to see the screen. It says Introducing the Municipal Measurement Program. So again, if you're having any problems with audio or the visuals, please don't hesitate to let me know. Take it away, Rick.
Thank you very much, Terry. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rick Penner, president of Emerge, the folks that many of you are familiar with that provide the Retrack Connect service. And I really look forward to telling you more about the Municipal Measurement Program this morning. And the slides should take 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then, the rest of the hour would be available for questions. So we'll jump right in. So the presentation is going to cover a general high-level overview of what the MMP is, and then a review of how it works for municipalities, the surveys and the way the data is going to be verified, and the reports that are available to municipalities. And then we're going to talk about the other side of it, which is how government agencies, county and state governments can use it as a local government measurement program measurement tool. So the MMP. As many of you know, Retrack has been around for a long time, 15 years, and basically, traditionally, what we have done is worked with government agencies and other organizations to build in very tailored programs into the platform that are specifically designed for the data that each organization wants to collect in their jurisdiction, and several of you are clients already and sort of aware of that, how that works, and it works very well in that regard, and provides a very tailored, customized sort of data collection solution and for managing program and managing reporting programs. The MMP is a new kind of model. So we are providing this as an option for government agencies that want to collect data from their municipalities. But instead of building a custom tailored program for your state, the MMP is a standardized municipal data collection service that is, ready to go out of the box. There's no, work at your end to sort of figure out what fields you want to collect and how you want it built, and all of the works associated with sort of that. And many of you are familiar with the way that works and the extent to which that can be quite a project. And so it provides another alternative as sort of a quick and easy and affordable sort of data collection solution for municipal information. And we've been working on this for about 2 years, getting feedback from industry stakeholders and municipalities and government agencies and a range of different folks on how this should work and how best to set this up. And so we launched it back just a couple of months ago in January, based on all of that work and all of that research. And a really key part of the service is, and a very exciting component, is the relationship we have with the Recycling Partnership, who's adopted the MMP as the measurement tool that they want to use to collect and manage information from municipalities around the country, and they're directly involved in delivering it and verifying data, and we'll talk more about that. So, all right, so what is the MMP? Basically, really, as a high-level overview, municipalities sign up and they join in the ReTrack Connect program. There's no charge, and they are asked to fill out a range of fields in a program assessment survey. And then by virtue of putting in that information about their programs, they're able to generate a range of different reports on program performance, benchmarking, and recommendations. So putting in that information then builds a national centralized database of all of this type of municipal program information. And then state and county government agencies can access. We've configured it in a way that allows agencies to access the subset of MMP data that exists for municipalities in their jurisdiction. And then state governments can review that data and then run a range of different reports that have been built specifically for on that information for those users. This national database also becomes available to other organizations that have an interest in improving waste and recycling in the US and Canada, and there's a lot of data collection activities underway. Like, municipalities are regularly being asked to fill out surveys about their programs, and so this basically provides those organizations that need that information as a really efficient source for when they want and need that data. That's really a high-level overview. The vision for the MMP is to help standardize measurement. We've been working in this a long time, many of you as well, and know the importance of standardization and harmonization and the many benefits that can be realized through increased standardization. So that's one of the key goals, is to help achieve that. Again, we've been working with a lot of organizations over the years, and we know we really understand the value and the importance of having efficient access to this kind of information. And so the MMP is going to provide that. And ultimately, the goal is to help give municipalities information that can help them improve their recycling systems, understand how they're doing, understand how they benchmark against other communities, and then recommendations on how they can improve. So what's in it for the municipalities? It's free and easy. The program assessment surveys are standardized. They have access to a range of interesting and important and useful program performance reports. There's the ability to benchmark their performance against other communities, and then the recommendations. Again, a really key part is to sort of learn how they can improve their programs based on the expertise and ideas of industry organizations. And it also gives them a centralized pool of data to easily monitor year over year for their performance. So particularly for smaller communities, that can be a really useful tool. For state agencies, it builds a standardized database of municipal program information in your jurisdiction. It's very efficient access to that information for you. Because there are a number of organizations in the industry that will be and are promoting the MMP to municipalities, they won't just be hearing about it from you. It's not only you that is responsible for promoting the MMP. TRP is going to be promoting it. We're going to be promoting it. A lot of other industry organizations that want to take advantage of the existence of this centralized pool of data will be promoting it. And so municipalities will be hearing about it from a range of different directions. With the sort of collaborative nature of the data verification that I'll talk about in more detail, it's going to improve and increase the data accuracy of the information, which is critical. And the value-added measurement tools for your municipalities. You're basically, in promoting it, you'll be promoting a useful service, a useful tool that municipalities can benefit from. And as I said earlier about the ease of being able to adopt the MMP as a municipal data collection tool, it's a turnkey reporting solution. You just sign up, we turn on an account for you, and presto, there you have access to all of the tools that you need to efficiently monitor and analyze the data that's coming in. And for NEWMOA, it facilitates statewide and region-wide performance comparisons using standardized fields. It permits regional data aggregation and analysis. And it will support the interstate coordination on common issues and identifying what they are and potentially addressing them. And the opportunity to improve and expand. So we've launched the first version of the MMP that it is what it is right now, but over time we know that it's going to expand. There are a number of new modules, additional modules that folks are talking to us about, expanding organics, for example, and more financial data. And so the vision includes that evolution. And so working with state and other organizations that are using the MMP and groups like NEWMOA, it'll be really valuable to help us know exactly how to improve it, us and the recycling partnership to get that feedback and build it over time. All right, so how does it work for a municipality? So it's available for free right now to any municipality in the US and Canada. The representative that's representing a municipality fills out a form, and we're controlling the application process carefully to make sure that the person who's registering is actually the person who has the authority to represent that municipality. We don't want duplication. We want to make sure that at each town, whoever's filling it out is the right person. So they need to identify themselves and verify their identity, basically, and then we accept them into the program. They get an email, and then they are presented with an about your municipality survey. So, but range of different questions about the type of characteristics of the community, population, etc., number of households, and then also they're asked to confirm whether they have a curbside program and or depot program. And so depending on how they answer those questions, they will be presented with either or both the additional surveys specific to their curbside programs and then their drop-off programs. The whole thing, if they have the information handy, takes about 30 minutes based on the feedback we've been getting. So it's not a huge survey, it's not super onerous, so it's reasonable in that regard. And so the curbside program assessment survey. So there are 6 sections. First one is about their curbside overall sort of curbside collection programs and infrastructure, and then a range of pages specific to their different material programs. So solid waste collection, single family curbside recycling, their multifamily recycling if they have one, organic collection, again, if they have one, and then just some information about the person completing the survey. So for the drop-off one as well, it asks them about the details of their drop-off collection programs. And we can send out after this call, we can send out a link to the actual sample surveys. And so you can play around and have a look at what the specific fields are in each of these forms. So as I said earlier, they, by virtue of filling out those surveys, they can't generate any reports until they've completed the survey. So they complete the survey and it unlocks a range of different types of reports. Program summary, economic benefits, recommendations, and then diversion rate and various sort of benchmarking reports. Just a couple of examples here. So curbside diversion, they are able to, at the click of a button, generate that information, assuming they put in their tonnage information. There's some tonnage data, the pounds per household, the economic benefits reports, and then the recommendations. And this really is a key part of the service for municipalities, is the ability to access this information, and also for our partners, the organizations that we're working with and that want to leverage the existence of the MMP to be able to work with us in the Recycling Partnership to embed recommendations that they'd like different industry groups and different folks that we're working with. And this would apply as well to state governments if you have specific kinds of recommendations that you'd like to recommend for your municipalities. This provides a vehicle to do that very efficiently. So the MMP was launched in January. We have over 100 municipalities all over the country participating already. And in the NEWMOA states, there are 21 municipalities, with 5 of 8 of the states already having at least one. Okay, so the government data management plan. So this is the subscription plan that we're offering to county and state governments. Very specifically, nobody else can purchase a subscription to this type of plan. And what it does is it allows you access to the MMP data in your jurisdiction, which you can review and manage, generates all the reports that you need on that information, and then also you'd be engaging your communities, promoting the MMP, and making sure that as many of them are participating as possible. So your municipalities fill out the forms, submit the data, and your program access would give you the sort of the program manager interface that would allow you to review the data as it's coming in, manage the survey responses, review the information, work with if you have questions. There are reports available to help identify discrepancies or sort of odd numbers that don't necessarily look right. There are tools and reports that are available to sort of run that kind of analysis to identify those outliers, and then you can work with your municipalities, get them to answer questions and confirm whether in fact that was what they intended to submit, and then run all the reports you need, and then the motivation, so promoting it again to your municipalities. And then as the municipal data gets submitted in your jurisdiction, then it unlocks all of the different types of reports that are available to you as state level program managers. So just go back there. There's on all of the different fields, there's reports that are available to help slice and dice it and present it back to you in various ways. And we're not going to get into all of those today, but there's a lot there, and it covers, the normalized types of reports like pounds per household, the benchmarking against averages in your jurisdiction, the drop-off analysis, summary of all the different information, like how many and of drop-offs that are exist in your state, and the recommendations. So how many communities in your state were presented with which recommendation, so you can see which recommendations are being triggered the most, and which of your municipalities are seeing those recommendations. So, and just on the recommendations, I should clarify, those are triggered based on how a municipality fills out the information. So if they say they don't have, a curbside program, for example, then they'd get a recommendation, well, curbside programs can really increase your capture and diversion rates. So, that sort of thing. So those recommendations are based on how they've answered the different questions. So curbside diversion rate, the diversion rate information, tonnage information, there is various aspects of the data is kept confidential from general access, but as government agencies, as part of signing up to use the MMP, we're asking municipalities to allow that data to be used in various ways. And some of the data, like the tonnage information and contact information, we are restricting access to only to ourselves, the recycling partnership, and government agencies. So other types of program information, whether a curbside drop-off, for example, that's information will be more broadly available, but tonnage information, we know there's sensitivity and on tonnage and other information, and so there's various ways that information is being restricted. So here's just some examples of the types of reports that will be available to you as state governments. Curbside program tonnage information, the drop-off report, how many sites and staffed or unstaffed, diversion rate analysis, and as I say, we don't have there's a lot of different reports that are available to you, and so if you're interested, we can do another call. We can have another call with you individually and go through these in more detail. So for those of you who are participating in the state measurement program, there's also linkages that have been built in terms of the data. So, and this is one aspect that actually we're quite excited about as well, is to increase the harmonization between the data that's being collected in the MMP and the information that's being rolled up and aggregated for the purposes of the state measurement program for regional and national analysis, and make sure that they're as aligned as possible. And this is an area that we can we're quite interested in sort of working with folks over time to increase the extent to which the fields are aligned, and the MMP can support the state and national data analysis. So right now, some examples are the curbside MSW tonnage information can support, there's a field in the SMP that calls for that information, can support that. Curbside recycling tons and the tipping fee. So like there are 11 questions right now that align, and I think there's a lot more opportunity to expand that. So the state subscription fee is available at the low price of $49.99, and there's no setup fee. That's just the annual fee. And as I say, by virtue of signing up, you get access to the program manager interface that allows you access to all of the municipal data within your state. And the Recycling Partnership, because they're very motivated to get the MMP adopted, and because the more data that's in the system, the more useful it is for everybody, including what the Recycling Partnership needs for, understanding municipal programs, what's being done, how they're working, and all of the different types of analysis that are very useful for the kinds of services that the Recycling Partnership provides. And so data is a really key part of what they do and how they operate and how they plan. So they're really interested in getting states to adopt it, because it's a really important driver for getting municipal participation. We've seen it. We have 2 states right now that have already signed up, and one of them, Mississippi, has been promoting the MMP for the last month or so, and by virtue of having a state government that's actively promoting it, really does spike participation. As you can understand that will be a really key part of the overall model to make sure. In some states, it could be mandatory. It could address their mandatory reporting requirements for municipalities, so that will ensure participation. But even in voluntary states, we're seeing a big bump in by virtue of having the states participate and adopt the MMP. There is also the option in some states for counties as well to participate, and so in those states there will be the counties will promoting it and the states, and then the TRP. So for the grant, they are offering to pay the first-year subscription fee for a state agency, and it's available right now. It's actually, I've got some details coming up in one of the last slides in terms of exactly how to apply and where to go for more information. But just to wrap up, one of the key points and aspects to the MMP as a project is the fact that it is a collaborative platform. On the data quality, as you know, this is a big question. Is sure, municipalities will put data in, but is the data useful? How good is it? And that's a key issue. So having the types of collaboration that I've talked about with counties and states reviewing it, having the Recycling Partnership involved in reviewing it and ultimately verifying it, very useful and helpful in terms of making sure the data is as good as it can be. So the collaborative review and verification, and then with the Recycling Partnership playing that direct role in making sure that it's verified. So their role will be to review submitted survey responses and check data. They'll help contact municipalities. They will work, first of all with the state, with you guys, on the quality if there are questions, and the idea is that they'll, the states will be the first point of contact with municipalities, but they will also do that in states where the state hasn't signed up yet. And then ultimately, it's going to be the Recycling Partnership staff, data quality staff, that are going to be responsible for verifying the information, marking it as verified in the service. And so key role on data quantity is, again, that's the other really important thing, is making sure that there's as many municipalities putting data in as possible. The quantity of information is maximized. So that this idea of the collaborative promotion is really, really key to having this model successfully work. So having state agencies, having you folks promoting it, either voluntarily or as a required reporting form. Having counties in those jurisdictions, counties and solid waste districts promoting it to their municipalities, national trade associations that are interested in accessing this information, EPA, Recycling Partnership, of course, and then state recycling organizations and resource recycling, I know, is really interested in this project and are keen to promote it. So there's going to be there's going to be a lot of talk about the MMP. There's going to be municipalities going to be hearing about it from a lot of different directions. We do have a promo kit that's ready to go. So if you want to start promoting it, whether you adopt it and start using it to collect data or not, we have this available to you to help get the word out and in a kind of a standardized and out of the box way, as well as there's some blog posts, there's some more detailed documentation, and also a training video that's available to support municipalities that have questions and want to participate. So for the grant, the application deadline is next Friday, May 24th. TRP is going to make the decision that following week, and they'll be announcing it on May 31st, and then we'll start working with those states to get them set up. There's the link to the application. We'll send that out as well. We can send that out in an email after this call. So that's where you find more information about the Recycling Partnership Grant. All right, that's it for the presentation. We can switch over to the questions.
Thank you, Rick. People have been posting some questions, so I'm going to, everybody as far as I know is unmuted, so I'll read the question, but then if the person who asked the question wants to elaborate a little, you're welcome to do so. All of you should be able to have audio controls at this point. So Chris Nelson from Connecticut asks, does the survey capture information related to subscription, i.e. private curbside collection, in addition to municipal transfer station information for towns that have that set up?
I can answer that one.
Sounds good. Hi, Josh.
Hello, this is Josh. Yes,
Josh,
the
introduce
curbside.
yourself.
Sure, yeah, this is Josh Reid. I'm the Municipal Services Manager. I'm part of the team leading the MMP and the Government Data Management Plan.
He works here at Emerge.
So the answer is yes, the Curbside Program Assessment Survey asks how services are provided for each of the municipalities' curbside programs. So it will ask for single-family recycling, multifamily recycling, MSW, and organics. And then it will also ask about the types of disposal facilities that are owned and operated by the municipality.
But what Chris is talking about is not a service provided by the municipality, but by a private entity that individual residents subscribe to provide pickup and waste management services.
Well, it won't identify the actual hauler. So if it was a contracted hauler, it won't list that actual hauler, but it does ask whether the services are provided by public staff or if it's a licensed hauler or franchised. But that's about as far as it goes with how the services are provided.
Chris, does that get at your question?
Kind of. I mean, you know, a lot of our towns in Connecticut do have that approach where they offer the drop off at the municipal transfer station, but residents also, you know, a portion of them subscribe privately. I mean, if we want to get a complete picture for those towns, we'd want data in that reflects both what's collected at the transfer station as well as what's collected by the private haulers servicing the residents of that town. But the town has nothing to do with arranging that subscription curbside service.
The survey does...
Do the towns require those subscription haulers to share data with them? With the towns?
There are some data reporting requirements, but we are trying to strengthen those a little bit at the moment.
So the survey will capture whether a subscription service is available in that community or not, but the tonnage information is dependent, yeah, as Terry says, whether the municipality has access to that tonnage information. So if they do, then yes, they would be able to include that.
Okay, so they would enter in data for, assuming they could get it, they would enter in data for, this is what we have been informed has been collected curbside by our private haulers, and this is what we know we're collecting at our town transfer station. They could enter in kind of both parts of that data set to get a complete picture for their town.
That's a question, right, Chris?
That was a question.
Yeah.
I'll end it with, is that correct?
And I'm going to, you know what, I haven't looked at that part of that form for a couple of months, so we can get.
Let me ask a question, Chris. Would it be important to you to know what's coming in through subscription service, separate from what's coming in through say the transfer station, or if it's all rolled into one number? Is that sufficient for your purposes?
Well, I think we'd want to see the two parts, because the towns would have a very firm handle on what in theory what they're collecting at their transfer station, because they would probably have weights for that. The data, the way it's currently reported from the subscription haulers, it's not maybe it's high degree of accuracy, but I'd like to see the two components of it. So as we're analyzing a town, we're looking at, okay, I mean, yes, we want to know their overall number, but we also want to see the two components.
Okay. So Rick, are you going to look into this a little deeper, dig a little deeper, maybe get back to us by email?
Yes, and actually I'm going to bring the form up on my screen here so we can take a look at the actual fields. Okay. But I'm going to need a minute for that. Chris, did you have Chris Ronson from our team? Did you have?
Yeah, I actually had just shared the access to the form itself within the chat window to everyone. That is going to take you to the Curbside collection page 3 of the form. And so this is an example of the actual survey. It's not, you can't submit anything, but it's kind of exactly how it would be for a municipality to interact with. And so as Rick is showing on the screen right now, the first question as it relates to residential single family curbside recycling is asking about how that service is provided. You'll see there that it does ask no single family or provide an option for no single family curbside recycling collection is provided by a private open system, or it's not provided at all. And then based on how that is filled out, so if you choose no single family, then it's going to ask different questions as they relate, and based on what we've found working with municipalities, what they were able to provide through our beta testing and working one-on-one with these municipalities. Certainly we do anticipate expanding the types of questions, and I think this is a great opportunity for you as the states to give us feedback on this, what you would like to see added into the overall template as we expand for the 2020 version.
So I've just been clicking on a couple of the fields here, and again, this is available to you guys right after this call. There, we'll make sure you have a link to it, and you can click through and go into the details of exactly how it's set up. You won't have access to the reports, but so.
Okay, so I'm going to move on, and for the sake of time, Lydia Montel-Wade, who's from Massachusetts, has some questions. First one is, I understand that government agencies can't customize the questions asked / data delivered. Can we customize the recommendations offered triggered by their response? And Lydia, I hope you're unmuted and you can, elaborate on this if you want. But Rick, do you want to comment on this question?
Yes. Hi, Lydia. So that's right. The core survey fields are standardized for all municipalities. In terms of recommendations, that we are working with the Recycling Partnership to collect different suggestions on types of recommendations that folks would like to add, and yes, we will be adding, and the plan is to be adding additional recommendations. So yes.
I think that one of the offshoots of this question is that the Recycling Partnership is a national organization. And I don't know to what extent they're familiar with all the different state mandates and requirements and recycling laws. And so I think that some of the states might be sensitive to them making recommendations without a good understanding of the particular legal framework in a particular jurisdiction. You know, Massachusetts, for example, has a lot of waste bans. You know, are they likely to really understand all of that and respond in a way that provides that context?
Yes, so I think I'd say a couple of things about that. One is, yes, we're because of the work we've done all these years, you know, we are very highly aware of how the unique kind of needs and, you know, scenarios in each different jurisdiction, and so the model that we're building will include the ability for a state to add, you know, questions. So there's a core fields that will always be the same, but we know that some jurisdictions will need to add additional questions potentially. So we're building in the ability to accommodate that, and then also a recommendation specific to a jurisdiction. That's also something that you know, we could work with you on. So we do know, you know, while we're trying to accommodate and accomplish this national standardized service, we do know that there is a need for, in some regards and in some areas, for localized fields and reports and recommendations. So the other thing I'd say is that this like this is a complicated project, right? And standardizing, trying to harmonize is tough, and it's we've started with the fields and the collecting data about the different programs that we have, because it's sort of the beginning, but there's so much more that could be done. But it is complicated, and there's so many different situations that have to be considered that it's complicated, and so it's not going to please everybody all the time, having a standardized solution.
So Lydia had a second question, and she can unmute herself if she wants to elaborate on this, but will government subscribers be able to access all of the individual reports accessible by each municipality, as well as the reports that aggregate data across our region, or in her case, the state?
So the question is, for a specific municipality, will you be able to, as a state, see the reports that municipality can generate?
Yes, like the individual level reports as well as the statewide like aggregate summaries.
I can jump in here. Hi, Lydia. So the reports themselves that are available to you as state agencies are technically different. However, the ability to kind of zero in on an individual municipality, the overlap of each of the reports is almost identical. So the tonnage diversion rate, you're able to specify a municipality if you want to look at just that municipality solely, or you can look at it in an aggregate, or, you know, a subset of that particular region, or so on and so forth. So we try to make it so that you are able to do that, but we just built a more powerful report for the state agencies because you're able to aggregate it all at once. Does that make sense?
That does, thank you. Yeah, okay. I also wondered if there was a way for us to see examples of the type of reports that are available before signing up.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can, as Rick had mentioned, we'd be happy to kind of have a one-on-one demo. We can walk you through the reports that are accessible, including the recommendations report. So just to kind of build off of the last question, all of you will have an opportunity to see the recommendations that are currently configured so that you can review, make sure that you're comfortable with them, and that'll also give you an opportunity to give us feedback on if you think that there's more jurisdiction-specific recommendations that are required to make this work for your state.
So if there were, you think we might be able to add them now? It sounded like that was something you guys were hoping to build in eventually.
The technical ability for us to evolve the program is certainly there. However, as far as just managing this program as a whole, we've kind of set it up so that it's done on an annual basis. So I know what you're kind of looking at, and I can understand the angle with the challenges with some of the recommendations that may be presented to municipalities, but I'm fairly confident that once you see them, you'll see that they are relatively high level at this point. It's pointing to resources to ask municipalities to kind of learn more, but nothing really strict saying you need to do this, or we recommend that this is the only way to improve your program.
Thank you. Yeah, Terry had a good point about recommendations that might conflict with something in a specific region, but I actually, when I asked that previous question, I was more thinking of our state offering specific types of assistance for certain types of certain scenarios that might come out of the data submitted. So like if someone reported that they didn't know about their contamination rate or had a lot of contamination, I was thinking more that if we were able to personalize the recommendations, they could include things that are specific to our state that we are offering that other states might not be.
Absolutely. I think that is a perfect example of how we see this program evolving as new states begin adopting the MMP and working with us, because that's the best type of recommendation you can get. So the messaging is consistent in each region so that these municipalities aren't getting conflicting messaging, but also kind of leveraging a lot of what you folks are already doing in Massachusetts with, the different grants that are available and the different opportunities to improve the programs that are already established. I think that these can work really nicely hand in hand.
And Massachusetts is an interesting example because Massachusetts is using ReTrack for a municipal program already. And so, as Chris just alluded to, building in synergies between the MMP and the other municipal data programs in your state, we can work to coordinate to make sure that it's leveraging that relationship.
So we have another question from Jennifer Weymouth. I just want to make sure we get to it in the time we have. Jennifer is from Connecticut, and she's asking, we are tracking pounds per person. Are there fields in the survey for population served curbside and population served at the transfer station? And hopefully, Jennifer, you're unmuted, so you can add anything to your question if you want to comment on it.
I am unmuted. I think this actually ties into something that Chris Nelson asked about, which is that we do like to track MSW separately for our curbside programs and our transfer station programs, because that helps us better provide tools and assessment for our municipalities as they're planning for certain programs. And so when you're asking the demographic information, it would be important for us to make sure that the population question is, I'm looking at it now, to
exactly.
make sure that yeah, go ahead.
So the single family households, excuse me, are collected on the initial overview page, and then for each of the programs, it asks whether all the households are served or other, and if it's other, then it will apply that percentage to the number.
Okay, percentage.
It'll
take a percentage of the population.
Not just single family households.
Right. Yes, Terry.
So we
go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say we do capture, I believe, total population in the About Your Municipality survey, so the first one, and we haven't gone to the extent of capturing population. As you can see on here, we did start with the pounds per household as it integrates with one of the benchmarking reports in the analytics section. That's certainly something that technically is feasible in a round two, if you will, if that's something that you'd like to collect. I think the households was easier to capture from municipalities. That's what we found as well. So not all of them had the exact population, but it's something that either we could add in as a question eventually in the next version, once we kind of considered all the different options, or potentially looking at maybe, an average, number of people per household, and then working an analytical report into that, depending on, I guess, the level of specificity that you're looking for in Connecticut.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me just.
We do often back out of that number. We would take the number, but it's town specific. We would take the number of people per household. We wouldn't do a statewide average because Bridgeport is going to be different than an Oxford, Connecticut, or So.
Well, I think that this is sort of a bigger question. So part of the context for this webinar and our work is that we've been having a lot of conversations regionally about shifts in sustainable materials management metrics that states are either currently using or might use in the future. And I know Connecticut and some other states have been pretty active in moving away from the traditional sort of recycling percentage metrics for evaluating recycling and moving towards a sort of per capita tonnage disposed metric as a way to capture broader impacts from, say, waste reduction, reuse activities, but also because the feeling is that they have greater confidence in their disposal data. And furthermore, one of the things we're really targeting is a reduction in disposal. And so this trend towards per capita disposal is, in terms of tonnage, is sort of a direction we see the states going in. And I think that's part of the context for this question, if I understand it.
And that is a really good example of the kind of feedback that we're going to use to build and expand on the MMP, if that's a need. And that can already be that particular question can already be accommodated with the MMP, because we do have a population question and a tonnage question on MSW and the other materials. So in terms of the reports, that could be available. But it's the kind of thing that working with you individual states as well as NEWMOA, if you had specific kinds of needs that weren't in, like the fields weren't being in the MMP yet, then that's the sort of thing that we could work with you to figure out how to implement.
That's great. And I just want to clarify, we probably wouldn't take the total town population and total MSW. We would want to make sure that the population, population from census isn't necessarily useful. We want to make sure that it's the population that's associated with the MSW tonnages. But thank you. That's great that you can work with us on that.
So I just want to point out that I think you all can see this, correct me if I'm wrong, that in your chat box, Josh has posted a link to the grant subscription page, and Chris Ronson has posted an example of a question about curbside collection forms. So there's a link there for you to use. So that's in your chat box. We have about 5 minutes or so left, and I just want to see, I don't have any more questions that people have posted. Does anyone else? Everybody, as far as I know, on my end is unmuted. So does anyone else have any more questions or comments or thoughts about this?
This is Lydia from Massachusetts. I do actually have one more. I think I heard during the presentation that the recycling partnership staff are going to be responsible for verifying and marking all data as verified. Was that what I heard?
Yes, the technical confirmation of verified, which has a very specific kind of a technical implication in retrack, they will be the ones ultimately responsible. State you folks will be able to review and mark, identify after you've reviewed a municipality's data. You'll be able to mark it as reviewed and be able to run all of your reports on that.
So what does verified mean then? If it's not, what does that mean in this context? Are they making calls to make sure that the data is reported properly and accurately somehow? How are they verifying it?
Well, the term that we've been using to describe the relationship and the sort of the hierarchy between county, state, and then national at the Recycling Partnership is they're working together. Ultimately, the Recycling Partnership is designated to be the ones who finalize and verify, but they're going to be working very closely with states. And so once states have identified that in the system that they've reviewed and they sign off on a particular municipality's data, then the Recycling Partnership will verify it on that basis. It's in states where there isn't a local partner to review the data that the Recycling Partnership will. That's why they need this overarching verification sort of authority, but they'll be working very closely. We've been using the term deputize. So the Recycling Partnership sort of works with state and local deputies to kind of review the data and make sure it's been reviewed.
So in states where there is a state partner or customer that's subscribing to this, you're saying that the state would do that quality assurance work?
That's the goal, yep, exactly. And with support from the Recycling Partnership, they are available to support, but the state would be the first responder, as it were, for reaching out to municipalities where the data just doesn't make sense, or to follow up with municipalities on the information that they've submitted.
Yeah, and just the Recycling Partnership is really excited about that concept. Obviously, it helps spread out the verification workload and review process, and so that's already how it's working in at least one of the states that has signed up to start using the MMP in this way. And so they are definitely the first responders. They're the ones that are in direct contact with their municipalities, and the Recycling Partnership has pretty much said, yes, we won't be contacting your municipalities since you have taken on that role. They're just the ones providing the ultimate verification at the end, which becomes a lot easier if the state has already reviewed that data.
So I have another question. Since this is a harmonized system, how are you ensuring that people are actually understand what you mean by certain key terminology and that they're using those terms consistently? So, you talked about solid waste, and I know from our years of experience, what's categorized as solid waste varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and it may or may not include certain materials or certain sources of waste or sectors. Even what we consider to be municipal solid waste may not be, universally understood to be the same waste stream. So I think that that makes this particularly important that whoever's submitting this data is basing it on the same understanding of what we mean by some of these terms.
And
so is there a way of enforcing that, or a way of making sure that people are, providing data that's consistent?
Well, that is one of the challenges of trying to crack this nut. And we have put in as much on the screen right now, there's a need help section that provides definitions. And so we've put in as much definitions, working with the Recycling Partnership and other industry folks to nail what, to provide what is the standard definition, the right definition, or at least one that can be people feel comfortable with promoting as as a standardized sort of definition for these different things. So these are interspersed throughout, and including with there's some tool tips and different ways that this is presented. But yes, we have tried to provide as much background information on terms and terminology as possible.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to keep people past the hour. Is there any other final, very quick question that anyone has who's still on the phone or the webinar? Okay, Josh, Chris, and Rick, thank you so much for joining us this morning. This was really helpful, and I look forward to your follow-up and some of the information you indicated you'd be willing to share. And just for everybody's benefit, we will be posting the recording of this webinar on our website. We'll be sharing it with Emerge Knowledge. And thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of your Friday and a good weekend.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.